Good evening and salutations, my Days of a Lives fan. So let's talk about Nancy and Craig for a minute because I'm going to be honest. Um, I didn't really understand what was the point of this scene, them going down memory lane, and the minute he was like, "Hey, before you leave, you think we could sit there and have one last drink for just old good time's sake or whatever?" And I'm like, "What? Why? Why?" And then, and I'm going to be honest. It's kind of dickish because he's been taking it very harsh, very hardly. So for him to decide, let's go down memory lane and this, that, and the third, and they start talking about the good times, and he puts his hands on her hands, and then he asked her, and I am not joking, he asked her, "Do you think, do you think you would like to come to the wedding?" What the? You've been seeing how this woman been reacting this whole time. You think it's a good idea to invite this woman who's been in so much pain, who's been handling this very difficultly, to the wedding. I can't make this up. I really can't make this up. And that's literally what he asked her to do. And then there's another scene where she takes off the ring and she starts crying. And I, at first I was like, what was the point of that? But then I kind of realized, what was the point of this jackass asking her to the wedding? What was that about? Let's talk about Gabby for a minute because Gabby is either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Okay, and after she talks to Rafe about finding a guy to talk to get Ava behind bars, Rafe is like, "Yo, listen, this is a bad idea. This is dangerous. You're going there by yourself." Gabby's all like, "No, I'll be fine. I'll be fine." Yada yada yada. And I'm like, okay, all right, cool. So she goes in there and she knocks on the door. And first of all, this dude just looks. You ever just looked at somebody and they just look like they just bad news, like the type of person you don't want to be in a dark alley with. Yeah, that's pretty much that guy. So she comes in, she makes up some BS story about how she's working with the DA, and she's like, "Hey, Ava's going down. She's gonna be arrested soon, and you know, um, Melinda's gonna be sent there cleaning house, and she's angry, so she's gonna be going after the small fries also." And so she's like, "Listen, we want to take down Ava. We don't want you. You give us what we need, we can sit there and, wipe your record clean. It's like nothing ever happened. We just want Ava." And I'm sitting there looking at this whole thing. I'm like, bro, I thought, here's the thing. This scene for Gabby could have went sideways for so many different reasons. Um, but he's more worried about, snitching on Ava and paying the consequences of being a snitch. What he did say, I'm starting to wonder how good was Ava as this crime boss because this dude literally had a recording. He quoted an insurance policy. He had a recording of her telling him to lie, getting a bunch of other people to do it, and to take down Ray. And he gives it to her. She has it now. So I'm like, Ava, I don't even understand how it got to that point. This guy was so ballsy that he did that. Like, yeah, no, it's fine. It's cool. But he gives it to her, and now she has it. My whole thing is like, when this guy finds out that he's not going to be exonerated, guess who he's going to come for? Yep. Um, and the thing is, it's not like she lives in some sort of small town and she's a nobody. Like, she is known for, like, fashion and stuff like that. It's one of those things where it's like, when you become a public figure, you're a lot more accessible than sometimes you may be comfortable with. Especially in the cases of dangerous dudes like him. So Gwen and Leo are just pretty much catching up, and they talk about each other's woes, and romantic stuff and things of that nature. They talk about Jake, and here's the thing: Gwen leaves out the fact that the person that she's marrying is Xander. And later on, when she does see Xander, she talks about the double wedding. Now, I gotta sit there and say this whole double wedding makes a lot more sense here than it did on GH. Because at least in this situation, well, Gwen and Xander are broke. So, it makes more sense to sit there and, hit your ride with them as far as getting married than it would on GH when you got people who are financially set. Them having a double wedding made absolutely no sense, at least in this one. It makes sense. Um, so yeah, they catch up and everything like that. They mention the double wedding. Gwen talks to Xander about it, and he thinks he's fine with it. Of course, Gwen lies and says, "Oh, it's my friend Maddie or whatever." I'm like, damn well he doesn't go by Maddie anymore. He literally told you what his new name is. So why didn't you just call him by his new name instead of just being like, "Oh, his name is Maddie" or some crap that she said. Um, and of course, when Leo sees Craig, he talks about the double wedding. Hey, helping out his friend. She's financially strapped and everything like that. And Craig agrees. He's like, "Oh, you're such a good person," and yada yada yada. You have a good heart and all this other stuff. Listen, this guy has a tragic backstory, and while I do not sit there and give him a pass for all the stuff that he's done since, because he's done some stuff. When he was there talking about how his dad would beat him and his mom, it's like, I feel like a lot of times when they are really sitting there dumping on him, they forget that he does actually have a really messed up childhood. Not an excuse, but I don't know. I guess they really can't sit there and bring it up, but anyway, Jack. I mean, well, yeah, Xander talks with Jack at this point, and it's one of those things where it's like I'm glad that he's not on there full time until they can give him something to do. One of the things I do not like is when you have a character on there just for the sake of just being there. At least he gets to come in every now and then and be a good friend and be a good father and everything like that. And I got to sit there and say the one thing that I really do appreciate, and I've said this multiple times, is the relationship, their friendship between, Xander and Jack. Because in a lot of ways, they're somewhat opposites. One is very safe and one is very a risk taker. Um, anyway, they sit there and they talk about Gwen. And one of the questions comes up is, are you marrying Gwen out of obligation since, Sarah isn't available? And he's all like, no, I'm marrying her for the right reasons, and yada, yada, yada. I'm like, bro, I feel like you are lying to yourself. And I would feel bad for Gwen, except for the fact that she's Gwen and she's done all the terrible things that she's done. So, yeah, I don't really feel bad for her. It sucks that this is what he's doing to her. And if this was anybody else, I'd be like, bro, you're an ass. But with Gwen, it's like, she's done so much dirt that at this point, I can't feel bad for her. Except for the one thing, we all know what I'm talking about. But other than that, I can't. Oh, and Jack is going to be coming to the wedding to be his quote unquote best mate. So, of course, I feel like when this wedding happens, when I sit there and say all hell's going to break loose, I feel like now is the time for any secrets, anything to come out. This is definitely going to be the time. So Rafe runs into Ava. It's one of those things where it's like Ava gets a little bit petty. Rafe probably kicks herself for, being with somebody in a small town when they got to sit there and constantly run into each other. They exchange some words. Um, Rafe was like, listen, I don't like how you've been around Nicole. Just leave her alone. Otherwise, I'm going to come after you. And, Ava is just like, yeah, whatever. You tried that. It's not going to work. So I'm not really worried about you. Um, And of course, Ava tries to make him jealous, but then she's like, no, I'm not really trying to do that. I was like, yes, you were. You talk about, oh, they're home together and this, that, and the third, and, sleeping in his bed and everything. And I'm like, you wouldn't just throw that out for no reason other than to sit there and trying to make him jealous. And the sad part is that at the end of this whole thing, it's Rafe that I'm more pissed off at. Ava was just being petty, but, whatever. Um, Now Nicole runs into Jake, and Nicole starts bashing Ava, and Jake pretty much defends her. The one thing that Jake says when he does meet up with Ava is that he doesn't like hypocrites. Um, Now, on top of the fact that Nicole did cheat on, did wind up going behind her back and having sex with her boyfriend, and then still have the audacity to sit there and say, "Oh well, Ava's been my friend for many years, been your friend for many years." You say that like this is something that's current. Like you two have a still friendship status because you don't. You did her dirty. And for her to stand there and kind of badmouth her, like, oh well, um, she's a bad person and this, that, and the third. And it's like, sweetheart, I haven't even been watching this show, and I've already been told by numerous subscribers just how down and dirty that Nicole used to get. So it's like the fact that you have the audacity to sit there and badmouth her is like, really? Now, Nicole talks about the whole framing thing, and Jake is like, well, you did sleep behind her, you did sit there and have sex with your boyfriend, hypothetically, but again, you have no proof, so whatever. Nicole gives him one last warning, and Jake is like, listen, I'm cool, I can handle my own, and she leaves, or he leaves, I forgot, one of them leaves. Um, Meanwhile, oh, and one of the things she was Smith did sounds like, oh, so let me guess, she's cooking for you, this, that, and the third, and I'm like, well, yeah, she's a good cook, and I don't see that as a bad thing. Like, um, with that being said, Jay goes back to see Ava, and they talk about Rafe and Nicole real quick about bad mouthing. Um, Her and Jake was like, he stuck up for her, and Ava smiled, and listen, I mean, I know that they're gonna sit there and push them together as far as a romantic relationship because, well, reasons, but I do like their friendship though. I do like the fact that they have each other's back, and they both kind of realized that they were trying to appease other people that wasn't really who they were, and so they kind of got that connection going on. Um, So, listen, if they didn't even want them getting together, I would have enjoyed their good friendship and their good camaraderie together with each other. But we know that it's going to be more than that because reasons. So, all right, whatever. Um, Same thing with Rafe and Cole. They both kind of talk about running into Jake and Ava, and not gonna lie, it doesn't really go anywhere. And to be honest, kind of Smith there, seeing them together complain about Ava just really pisses me off when they both did her dirty. When they both did her dirty, it's like, either one of you idiots have nothing to sit there and really complain about. But, okay, sure, whatever. I feel like that's about it. I really do. I feel like that's about it. So, yeah. Hmm. I don't know if I want to talk about this in this video, if I want to make a separate video or make a post about it. It's more about, like, if you watch my Y&R reviews, it's more about that. Um, but hell, I'm just gonna sit there and kind of share, or at the very least, get my thoughts together. So I'm still gonna be watching Y&R, and I'm still gonna be doing reviews on Y&R. It just may not be as frequent. That's mostly for the fact that by the time I wind up doing my Y&R reviews, it comes out super late, and I'm always very grateful and humbled, even if one person watches it, let alone 50 people that watch it. Um, Now, with that being said, because numbers aren't always as high, it winds up tanking my channel as far as the other videos that I do. Normal videos that I will get that's really high, they may not push it out as much because it's kind of like YouTube is kind of demoting you for getting low numbers. And yeah. So I mean, like I said, I'm still gonna want up doing it, but I just don't know if it's gonna be as frequent. But because I took so long and went through so much effort to sit there and get their names right, still gonna be watching it. But and it's weird. It's weird. I'm just gonna just air it all out. Because sometimes I will sit there and watch Brock TV, go on his channel. Sometimes he'll do like YNR, sometimes he'll do B&B, but it's not always. It's not as frequent. Even his days aren't as frequent. Um, he'll still put them out. He just won't put them out as much. And I've always sat there and looked at that and been like, well, listen, if I'm gonna do it, I want to be very consistent with it. But then I sat there and I realized that Brock, he has a life outside of this. He may have a crazy hectic schedule, and trying to do all four would just be too much. And although I can sit there and do all four, sometimes I'm just like, it gets like 9:45, and I'm like, you sure you want to actually do this video tonight? So it's just been something that's been weighing on me. What doing the days reviews is fine. Doing the GH reviews is, oh, that's my show. And B&B is like literally 20, 18 minutes long, so it's like whatever. But it's like Y&R is an entirely different beast, and although it is very intriguing, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know if I'm going to be doing reviews as often. I don't know. I kind of just had to play it by ear, but I just want to kind of just voice it out there for anyone that actually watch my reviews of Y&R or whatever. But yeah. With that being said, I'm going to go. I want to thank you for watching. Be safe. Let me know your thoughts on the comment section below. See you in the next video.